The CIA want to see a military commander they can trust, Colonel Khalifa Haftar.
The Americans want Haftar to go back to Libya, to join the fight, to professionalize the rebellion.
Once a senior leader in the Libyan army, taking on Gaddafi is personal. 254 people have died in the devastating terrorist bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 over the Scottish town of Lockerbie. Like the earlier bombing of a Berlin disco and gun attacks on civilians in European airports, the Lockerbie attack carries all the hallmarks of an operation by unhinged Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Gaddafi is deliberately and openly targeting Americans abroad. In the wake of a failed U.S. military operation to eliminate him, the CIA now turns to a new strategy. CIA Director William Casey plans to create a rebellion in Libya.
Already there have been efforts about putting together a paramilitary force of Libyans to try and have a little regime change in Libya.
For 7 years, Casey has been secretly supporting Libyan opposition groups in neighboring countries, providing weapons and training. In Washington, they are pinning their hopes on a revolution to overthrow the man they call the Mad Dog, led by Khalifa Haftar and his CIA-trained force of rebels. Then events in Africa ruin the CIA's plans. In 1990, the pro-American government of Libya's neighbor, Chad, is forced out and replaced by a new president who is hostile to the US-backed Libyan rebels.
So suddenly you have these several hundred Libyan soldiers sitting in Chad, getting ready to take action against Gaddafi, but the new president of Chad doesn't want them there. Ultimately, the Americans are left with no choice but to bring them back to the US.
The man the CIA want to lead a Libyan rebellion settles in suburban Virginia, only a short drive from CIA HQ in Langley. His men are settled across the country in 25 different states.
Haftar himself, after this long odyssey across Africa, settles in Falls Church, Virginia. He lived in a very nice house, he had a lot of kids, but he still always harbored this idea of returning to Libya.
A new opportunity for the CIA to deal with Gaddafi arises: the Arab Spring. Inspired by revolts in Tunisia and Egypt, popular protests break out across Libya.
In February of 2011, as the Arab Spring takes off, it finally percolates through, if you like, to Libya, and a protest in Benghazi gets out of hand and quickly becomes an uprising.
Gaddafi sends his troops against the protesters, believing no one will interfere.
Gaddafi probably in 2011 concluded that he was going to be okay, that the Americans would not move against him.
The CIA have always viewed Gaddafi as a clear and present danger to the US. Now, seizing the chance to remove him, the agency springs into action. It is time for Khalifa Haftar, the former commander of the anti-Gaddafi rebels, who has spent 20 years languishing in suburban America, to return to Libya. 1 month into the rebellion, Haftar arrives in Benghazi with a handful of his officers to cheering crowds. Within weeks, he is installed as the commander of the rebel forces.
The CIA needed trainers to help this ragtag army that was forming. That's what Khalifa Haftar was there to do, to help organize an otherwise completely disorganized rebellion.
With their preferred man in charge, the CIA is better placed to steer the Libyan rebellion. Thanks to this CIA support, within a few short months, the rebel forces take control of key Libyan cities. After 6 months of heavy fighting, the Libyan capital falls to the rebels, and Gaddafi goes into hiding.